Hi, and welcome to this week's headlines. I'm Sharaad, and here are the highlights. An incursion into our territorial waters by a Chinese Coast Guard vessel is a signal of power shifts in the South China Sea. Aftershocks from last week's PAS Mukhtamar or General Assembly continues to rock the Pakatan Rakyat coalition, and former Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir continues to challenge the current Prime Minister, but Najib is unshaken. And finally, for our main story, the June 5th Sabah earthquake, from international bad press to the good signs of Sabah's geology. The UK's Daily Mail ran this headline: "Your boobs have angered the mountain gods," after Joseph Pyring Kittingan commented on a nudist prank that took place days before a deadly but moderate quake hit the state of Sabah. Pyring is Sabah's Deputy Chief Minister and Hugon Siao, paramount leader of the Kadazan Dusun people. Now, other headlines included a naked Brit girl caused killer quake, and that was in the Daily Star. And in the Daily Mirror, locals in Borneo say gods on Sacred Mountain were angered by a photo prank. Now, despite the ridicule, and buffaloes were mentioned, Sabahan politicians and some of their people defended their traditional beliefs, though it's not clear if they meant that the disrespect for the mountain led literally to the quake. The continued mockery of Sabahan politicians and Kadazan Dusun values did cause an avalanche of hatred on social media towards the tourists, and with even calls for the murder of these offending people. So what's happened instead? Have buffaloes been sacrificed? Have people been murdered? No, well, it's been rather more prosaic. They have been arrested and charged for public indecency. Also struck by the post-quake anger was the Prime Minister, who was on an official visit to Saudi Arabia. His opening of a restaurant there was panned by netizens as being in poor taste. He has since apologized, saying he could not change plans. So what's the literal or scientific explanation for the quake? On June 5th, a magnitude 5.9 earthquake struck 14 kilometers northwest of Ranau in the state of Sabah. The quake generated tremors that could be felt in several locations, including Kota Belud, Kota Kinabalu, Tawaran, and Tambunan. So, how do we understand what happened? Now, unlike the Nepal quake, where mountains are being built, what happened in Sabah is about a mountain settling down. Sabah is part of the island of Borneo, and it sits on the Asian plate, but it jostles with the Pacific and the Indian plates. Now, it doesn't sit on a fault line, but it is subjected to geological forces that appear as small to moderate quakes from time to time. The biggest in recent memory occurred in the mid-60s and then in the early 90s. A geologist we spoke to says we can expect moderate earthquakes from time to time, and he counseled a measured response to this recent event. No need to overdo things, he said.
First thing I think is we have to understand the magnitude of our own earthquake. My fear is that we'll overdo things. The magnitude, you must remember that the magnitude that you are getting earthquakes in Malaysia is just a moderate scale. So policies should be aimed at addressing a moderate scale kind of earthquake, not going overboard and then doing something that is beyond necessity.
So let's count the cost of the quake. And finally, the death toll from the quake that hit Mount Kinabalu stands at 19. And that's not just Malaysians. A party of Singaporean teachers and primary school children perished, with the death toll for our southern neighbour standing at 10. Now, while search and rescue operations were hampered by bad weather conditions, all 187 individuals at the national park have since been accounted for. Malaysians have been showing their concerns in many ways. We even had the Sultan of Johor donating 1 million ringgit to reconstruction efforts in the state. While there has been some alarmist talk about a quake hitting Kuala Lumpur, tremors from the quake look like they're likely to register lower and lower on the Richter scale. Thanks for watching this week's headlines. You can catch me live at the Kuala Lumpur Festival at Publica this weekend, where the irrepressible Dr. M will also be there to give a talk. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon.